Room 39. A bank exists where tellers are ghosts and every transaction is written in the ink of international defiance. Nestled within the Workers' Party building in Pyongyang, Room 39 serves as the black heart of a global financial shadow play fueling a regime's survival. While most banks operate on trust, this organization thrives on state-sponsored deception and the absolute erasure of paper trails. Experts suggest this entity generates over $1 billion annually through a disturbing cocktail of legitimate businesses and illicit smuggling. It functions like a parasitic central nervous system, pumping hard currency into luxury lifestyles and weapons while the world remains blindfolded. The paradox is chilling. A nation claiming self-reliance is actually sustained by a secret, a hyper-capitalist machine hidden behind a plain wooden door. The most disturbing detail remains the human cost of these invisible earnings. Many believe Room 39 manages forced labor operations overseas, where workers are treated as living ATMs for the elite. Those who wander into this hallway are not merely arrested, they cease to exist in any official record, becoming another ghost in the ledger of blood. Movile Cave, beneath Romania's barren fields, lies a hellish ecosystem sealed since the Pliocene. To enter, researchers descend a narrow 65-foot shaft into air thick with rotten eggs and lethal carbon dioxide. This biological time capsule has evolved in defiance of the sun for over 5.5 million years. Survival depends on chemosynthesis, where bacteria feast on toxic methane to sustain a nightmare menagerie. Among jagged rocks, pale, eyeless water scorpions and translucent centipedes thrive without the concept of sight. These survivalists endure a low-oxygen purgatory that would liquefy human lungs instantly without specialized gear. Movile's horror is its indifference to surface life. Nature needs no light to create a complex predatory society, only time and a stomach for poison. Explorers describe an oppressive silence, knowing that equipment failure turns them into organic waste for a colony of blind monsters waiting eons in the dark. Tomb of Qin Shi Huang, a fortress of lethal chemicals, serves as the untouchable legacy of a man who feared death above all. While millions visit the Terracotta Army, the emperor's burial chamber remains sealed under a 250-foot man-made hill. Ancient scrolls describe a subterranean map where rivers of liquid mercury flow eternally, driven by mechanical pumps to mimic a kingdom that refuses to fade. Science confirms these legends with chilling precision. Soil samples reveal mercury concentrations over 100 times higher than natural levels, proving the tomb is saturated with neurotoxins. This is historical revenge on a grand scale, a monument designed to poison anyone daring to disturb the monarch's silent, toxic reign. Archaeologists warn that breaking the seal would trigger a catastrophe, destroying artifacts preserved in a vacuum of poison. The psychological weight lies in the emperor's paranoia, a ruler so terrified of interruption that he turned his eternal home into a lethal chemical trap. Somewhere in that darkness, he sits surrounded by silver death, waiting for mercury vapors to claim the first intruder. Mount Yamantau. Listen to the granite soil of the southern Ural Mountains, and you'll hear the rhythmic pulsing of machinery. This hum originates from deep within Mount Yamantau, where Russia spent decades carving a hidden city designed to survive a nuclear winter. While the Kremlin dismisses the site as a quarry, its multi-billion-dollar life support system suggests a much more disturbing purpose. The site is a monolithic fortress for 60,000 elite residents, guarded by special ops and a permanent no-fly zone. Intelligence analysts highlight a chilling disconnect between public records and the massive energy consumption detected from the mountain's core. It represents a physical manifestation of Cold War paranoia that never died, but simply moved underground to wait for the surface to burn. Unlike other restricted zones, Yamantau's horror is the realization that the end of the world has already been budgeted. It is a concrete arc for a shadow government, sitting in silence while humanity remains expendable. Standing near its perimeter, you aren't just looking at a mountain, you are looking at the exclusive lifeboat for the architects of the apocalypse. Lake Vostok nature has locked a secret beneath 2 miles of solid Antarctic ice, a liquid abyss that hasn't seen a single photon of light in 15 million years. Researchers drilling into this black void aren't just looking for water, they are breaking a seal on a prehistoric laboratory of cosmic horror. The disturbing reality lies in what thrives within that pressurized, eternal silence. Geologists have detected strange biological signals suggesting the presence of extremophiles with DNA sequences that defy all known terrestrial classification. There is a lingering scientific dread that by piercing this icy crust, we might release ancient, nameless pathogens into our modern biosphere, organisms that would treat our immune systems as defenseless territory. It is a chilling reminder that some doors are kept shut by the planet for a reason, hiding entities that view our entire human history as an insignificant blink in their timeline. By reaching for the lake, we risk inviting a primordial extinction event that has been waiting in the dark since long before our species learned to walk. To enter Vostok is to realize that we are not the masters of this world, but merely the current residents of a planet that still hides monsters under the ice. Snake Island. If a nightmare could be concentrated into a single piece of land, it would look like Ilha de Queimada Grande. Located off the coast of Brazil, this island is so lethal that the Navy has strictly banned all civilians, leaving the territory to its only inhabitants, thousands of golden lancehead vipers. Here, the density of death is calculated at 1 snake for every square meter, creating a carpet of scales that shifts and watches from every shadow. The horror of this place is purely biological. These vipers possess a specialized venom that acts as a molecular acid designed to liquefy human tissue on contact, a necessary evolution to kill birds before they can fly away. It is a visceral form of body horror where a single bite causes your internal organs to dissolve and your skin to melt off the bone. On Snake Island, you aren't a visitor, you are slow-moving organic fuel for a predatory machine that hasn't changed in millennia. There is no hospital, no antidote, and no escape once the first strike connects in the suffocating green silence of the Viper's throne. Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Walk toward the concrete wedge protruding from the Arctic permafrost, and you'll feel the silence of a funeral for a world that hasn't died yet. Sunk 430 feet into the mountain, this vault is a $20 million psychological safety net against a total biological collapse. While it's marketed as a fortress of hope, there's a disturbing quality to a library that only acquires value if civilization fails. The facade of invincibility was shattered in 2017 when the unmeltable ice turned into a flood, breaching the entrance and exposing our fragile insurance policy against extinction. It serves as a grim irony. We are hiding seeds from the sun in a mountain that is itself beginning to weep. This isn't just a storage unit. It's a chilled mausoleum where humanity has buried its guilt, praying that the permafrost stays frozen long enough to keep our desperate Plan B from becoming a waterlogged tomb. Lascaux Caves. The ghosts of 20,000 years ago don't like visitors. In the flickering darkness of Lascaux, the painted bison and horses appear to move, a haunting psychological trick played by our ancestors to claim this territory for the spirit world. We are permanently banned from this sanctuary, not because of what we might steal, but because our very breath acts as a slow-motion chemical weapon against the past. Exhaling carbon dioxide inside these chambers triggers a disturbing bloom of white fungus that consumes the ancient pigments like a biological cancer. It creates a tragic paradox. To witness the birth of human art is to ensure its death, turning the observer into a parasitic force that dissolves history. We are forced to stare at exact plastic replicas while the original shadows rot in a sterile, lonely exile, proving that some parts of our heritage are so delicate they can only survive if we pretend they don't exist. Heard Island. Try to scream on Heard Island, and the subantarctic winds will tear the sound from your throat before it can reach another human ear. This volcanic wasteland, isolated by 1,000 miles of violent ocean, is a geographic dead zone where nature has completely revoked the right to survival. There are no docks or airstrips, only jagged black rock and a smothering sense of being at the absolute edge of the map. If an accident occurs on these slopes, the horror isn't just the pain. It's the disturbing realization that rescue is a mathematical impossibility due to the storm-racked logistics. You are standing on a physical manifestation of nihilism, a place where you could vanish, and the world would continue to spin without even noticing the gap. Heard Island is a brutal psychological mirror, forcing us to confront the fact that there are still corners of the Earth that view human life as an irrelevant, short-lived biological glitch. Vatican Apostolic Archive power in Rome isn't measured by the size of St. Peter's Basilica, but by the weight of the secrets locked beneath its floors. The Apostolic Archive is a 53-mile labyrinth of institutional paranoia, containing documents that have survived fires, wars, and the rise and fall of empires. Walking these corridors feels like stepping into a collective memory that has been surgically altered to protect the Church's divine image. The atmosphere is thick with a disturbing pressure of ancient cover-ups, from the silencing of scientists to the transcripts of the Inquisition's most brutal interrogations. It functions as a fortress of suppressed truth, where Swiss guards and cutting-edge surveillance ensure that the heretical secrets of 12 centuries stay buried. To look at these shelves is to understand that history isn't what happened, it's what those in power allow us to remember, on leaving the most dangerous truths to gather dust in a silent, holy prison of paper. North Sentinel Island arrows launched from a lush, emerald shoreline serve as the only diplomatic communication the Sentinelese people offer the modern world. This small island in the Andaman Sea is home to a tribe that has rejected outside contact for 60,000 years, maintaining a hunter-gatherer existence that remains a living anomaly in the digital age. To set foot on these sands is to invite a primitive and lethal form of historical revenge, as the tribe views every visitor not as a guest but as a biological threat to be neutralized. The horror of North Sentinel lies in the violent collision of timelines, where modern curiosity meets ancient survival instincts. The tragic fate of missionaries and fishermen who ignored the warning serves as a disturbing reminder of our own fragility. It is a psychological shock to the system to realize that in a world of satellite surveillance and global connectivity, there is still a sovereign territory where the law is written in flint and blood, and where mercy is a concept that simply does not exist. Chernobyl Reactor 4. Radiation doesn't scream, yet inside the ruins of Reactor 4, the silence is deafening. This shattered core remains the epicenter of a 19-mile exclusion zone, a ghost kingdom where time stopped on a spring night in 1986. While nature has begun to reclaim the surrounding city of Pripyat, the reactor itself is entombed within a $1.7 billion steel arch, a desperate and temporary bandage on a wound that will bleed poison for centuries. Deep within the bowels of this concrete grave sits the elephant's foot, a solidified mass of corium so toxic that standing near it for just a few minutes is a guaranteed death sentence. This isn't just a relic of a failed experiment. It is a disturbing biological predator that slowly eats through its own containment. The true horror of Chernobyl is the realization that our greatest technological achievements can transform into eternal monsters requiring constant, multi-billion-dollar shackles just to prevent them from devouring the world again. The concept of total exclusion. Why does the human heart ache for the very places that promise to destroy it? The obsession with forbidden zones reveals a profound psychological paradox. We are drawn to the Great Silence because it represents the only parts of the planet that haven't been sanitized by the internet. These 13 locations aren't just patches of restricted land, they are the physical boundaries of our species' arrogance, reminding us that our control over the Earth is a fragile illusion. The disturbing truth is that the most effective fences aren't made of barbed wire, but of the uncontrollable fears we hide from ourselves. These forbidden places function as the Earth's immune system, pockets of chaos or ancient preservation that utterly reject the human ego. Which of these shadows haunts you most? Share your thoughts below, and thank you for watching. We are merely uninvited guests in a house that has many rooms we were never meant to enter.